Too many windows, gotta get to share. There we go. All right, great. How does this look? Can everyone see my screen? Take your silence as a yes. All right, great. So we'll jump right in. So welcome to our virtual public meeting. So this is an open meeting, and as required, this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be made available to the public. We will be sharing this on the Bus Priority 8th Street Southeast Project's webpage. The link is here, and maybe one of my co-hosts can drop that in the chat so folks have easy access to it. Throughout the meeting, feel free to use the Q&A feature. We'll go into the details of how to do that, but it looks like folks already are figuring that out, so that's great. If anyone needs technical support during this meeting with any of the tech using the platform, you can call this number on the screen, 202-997-8354. So just a couple of notes about the platform and the tech side of things. So all the attendees in this meeting will remain on mute. You can't unmute yourself. This helps ensure the meeting runs smoothly. This is standard practice for this type of meeting, and will minimize disruptions and making sure we stay on course. There is a closed caption feature available. It's on the bottom left of your screen, the little CC button. Feel free to use that if that would be of assistance to you. If you're using the WebEx mobile application, you would need to click the 3-dot little icon at the bottom and click on the closed captions option. Just a heads up, some of these instructions may look slightly different. You know, the platform does get updated and different versions are out there. So if it doesn't look exactly the same as this, just bear with us and hopefully you can navigate to the right place. Regarding video, video camera will also be off by default and you'll not be able to share any video. So the Q&A, I realize now that this slide is now out of date and this is not actually the way to ask a question. Don't use the 3-dot button, the icon. There is actually the Slido little window on your screen, and you can use the Q&A function there. Great, so real quickly, we're going to go over the meeting agenda and talk a little bit about the purpose of this meeting. So the agenda is we're going to go through the project timeline and some backgrounds, talk about a summary of public feedback we've received to date. We're going to go through exactly what we are planning on building, and then the construction schedule for this project. The main purpose of this meeting is not to take lots of feedback on the whole arc of the project. We've been doing public engagement for the last roughly 3 years on this project, but we do need to make sure everyone is notified and clear on what DDOT is doing. And so that first bullet point is coming to a common understanding of what is being built and why we're doing it. And then really, the focus of these pre-construction meetings is also to provide adequate notice and provide details on the construction timeline and its actual impact so that folks who live, work, and go along this corridor know what to expect and when. So the next few slides, for folks who have been engaged in this project thus far, are going to look familiar. We're making sure that we've all got this common understanding of how we got here and what the project looks like. So we kicked this project off in 2023. Most of our, many of our DDOT projects, we begin with initial planning that includes data collection, observations along the corridor, and beginning our community outreach and engagement. That all feeds into our needs assessment, where we evaluate what's going on along the corridor, identifying issues, documenting problems, and then beginning to come up with solutions. So that's when we start developing our conceptual plans. We did a robust engagement on several iterations of our concept plan for the 8th Street Southeast corridor. Once we have a pretty good idea of the main elements that we want to to construct, we do traffic analysis and then move towards selecting our concept. We formalize that with a concept selection letter that goes out to the public, and we sent that out in August of 2024. We did significant engagement with the community with a focus on businesses along Barracks Row and other stakeholders through our curbside regulation working group. We came up with a number of changes to the parking and curbside regulations, including dealing with loading zones, pickup and drop off issues, et cetera. And through that collaborative process, we came up with the parking regulations that will be included in this project. 2025 was really focused on the design process. So we go through an iterative design process where we work through kind of from broader to more specific design elements with working with our consultants on the design and engineering side. We are nearing the final design, just wrapping that up right now. But in the beginning of 2026, in January, we issued our notice of intent, and that included all of the elements that we're planning on constructing. That went out to the public and had a 30-day public comment period, which just ended last week. We will talk about some of the feedback we received through that a little later in the presentation. We are here right now at the pre-construction meeting, and we are planning on beginning construction this spring. We'll get into the specifics of that soon, and expecting it to be a spring and summer project primarily. So just a little background. So DDOT has, adopted in 2021 our bus priority plan. That includes our bus priority network, which is shown in the map there with various. We're doing projects all over the district in all 8 wards, and they're at different stages. Kind of zooming in here, this project runs from East Capitol at the north to M Street at the southern limits of 8th Street Southeast. We established early on in our project a few key goals. So primarily, we are working to reduce bus travel times and improve bus service reliability, improving access to bus stops and making sure bus stops work well and are not blocked, improving safety and comfort, especially for vulnerable road users, and addressing curbside issues through improved loading zones and other changes to curbside regulation. And we developed these these goals for each of our projects based on kind of the early engagement and needs assessment work that we do to identify issues along the corridor. So just a reminder, 8th Street Southeast is heavily served by WMATA bus routes. When we began the process, this was prior to WMATA's bus network redesign. Primarily it was the 9092 running along 8th Street. The current routing is the C53 and the C55. So for folks who haven't been as engaged with the project recently, we do always, when we have a change in service like this, we like to come back and make sure, we're still warranted in, prioritizing bus operations on a corridor. And yes, indeed, this is still, despite the network changes, a heavily used bus corridor. So the C53 is actually the highest has the highest ridership of any single route in the whole WMATA system. As of September 2025, over 14,000 boardings on an average weekday. The C55 also serves the southern part of the corridor. It's a less frequent and lower ridership route, but together they combine to bring over 15,000 people to the corridor on our buses. Within the project area itself, just that 8th Street segment from East Capitol to M, about 1,200 boardings occur every day. And we're looking at about a combined peak of 10 buses an hour south of Pennsylvania Ave, where both routes run. So from our needs assessment, which we conducted in 2023, some of our key findings include what you see on the screen. So slow bus speeds throughout the corridor in many locations and at most times of day. And so we see speeds of less than 7 miles an hour for buses through several portions of 8th Street. There are some congestion hotspots where traffic is especially difficult for buses to get through, right around Penn Ave and East Street in both directions. Bus speeds are regularly at many times a day below 4 miles an hour. Throughout Barracks Road, generally, the southbound direction bus travel is slower than the northbound direction. And then as far as bus stops, as anyone who's been out on the corridor, bus stops are often blocked along the corridor, causing an accessibility issue, as well as challenges for buses to quickly and efficiently serve stops. As far as safety and pedestrian and bike environment, there's a lot of challenges with all the commercial loading, pickup and drop off activity, double parking issues. The angled parking was found to cause its own, kind of unique set of parking challenges along the corridor. We found many intersections did not have adequate daylighting, which means that parking is allowed closer to the intersection than we actually allow under our DC regulations. And so there's some required changes to where the parking setbacks and where the parking bays actually begin at intersections to improve safety. And then we found the crossings for pedestrians at 8th and D, both the northern leg, north of Penn Ave, and then the southern part of D Street, which is south of Penn Ave, are both difficult for pedestrians, and there are several specific hazards at those locations that we needed to prioritize. So we have done a lot of community engagement throughout the process. We presented at several ANC meetings. ANC 6B was the most engaged. We also presented a few times at 6-8F. Over the last 3 years, more than 10 presentations and engagement opportunities at ANC meetings. We did a lot of engagement on the corridor, including the posters you see on the right there. We're hanging those at bus stops and also providing handouts to businesses and residents along the corridor, handing out to bus riders at bus stops. We conducted a loading survey to businesses. We did a lot of engagement with all the permitted streeteries along the corridor, and we continue to engage with those streeteries who still have them or are applying for permanent streeteries in the future. We did engagement with key stakeholders, including internal within DDOT across all our issue areas, and engaging with direct issue experts. WMATA, several parts of that agency are a key stakeholder in all of our projects for bus priority. The fire and EMS station on the corridor. We have a fire station on 8th Street, so we've been very engaged with those folks and have continued to take their feedback and work together on this project. Marine Barracks Washington, another major stakeholder on the southern end of this corridor, who have specific operational needs that we've been working to incorporate into this project. And then on the business side, several engagement events with Barracks Row Main Street members and board members, et cetera. And then general public taking comments through the website. We had a survey, a lot of direct email back and forth as well from myself and other staff members at DDOT. So in August 2024, we reached our concept selection, where we kind of set the general, broad brush strokes of what we plan to construct along the corridor. These are at high conceptual level, so it's not a CAD drawing that construction happens off of. So things change between this concept selection and when we actually do design. There are limitations that we're not able to account for at this level of detail. Things like slope of the roadway, specific utilities, things like that. And so we keep it kind of high level at the concept level and then get more and more detailed as we go into the design process. So throughout the corridor, and so just to orient you, M Street is on the left here. So south, that's south on the left of your screen, north to the right of the screen. Throughout the corridor, safety improvements, curb extensions, a few median pedestrian refuges to improve crossings, and other traffic calming treatments. We did bus stop improvements, including bus stop bulb outs throughout the corridor. There are several bus stop relocations that we will be doing. In the southbound direction, so all of that, the blue line just south of Penn Ave down to M Street is going to have a southbound bus lane that is in the offset position. We'll go through in more detail what that means on a block by block, but that retains parking on that side of the street, and then the bus lane would be in the second lane from the curb. Throughout that part of the corridor along Barracks Row, we will be converting the angle parking to parallel parking, and that's what's providing the additional space so that we can fit bus lanes on the corridor. In the northbound direction, we're just going to have a short bus lane segment that runs from E Street up through Penn Ave. It actually extends up to D Street, the northern leg of D Street as well. That's need to update that on the slide. At the 800 block of D Street and 8, there's a number of safety treatments, and actually both legs of D Street. I think saving those till we'll get into the details on those blocks, and you'll be able to see them well. So, and then the northern part of the segment, it's lighter touch. We don't have as wide of a road, so the interventions are generally, not as visible as a bus lane, but we are doing several safety and bus priority treatments up there. So before we get into the block by block of what we're going to be building, just want to speak a little bit to the notice of intent that we issued on January 14th of this year. It came with, as I said, a 30 business day public comment period. So that wrapped up on Friday of last week. We are required to provide notification on proposed traffic and parking modifications that DDOT does. And so a number of things that meet that criteria that need to be in an NOI for our projects. So we did receive some comments on the NOI. We received 20 written comments. 60% of them were generally just supportive of the project. We did receive a few comments in opposition to the project. Generally, those were all about the impacts on parking. We will get into the specifics of what those impacts actually are. We did, have work to minimize parking impacts along the corridor, and we'll go through in detail what those are. A few of the comments were neutral to the project, but then had a specific issue or a specific comment on an exact location. They kind of like ran the gamut. I'm only just highlighting the one comment like this, where we got more than one, which was 2 comments opposed to one of the bus stop relocations from 8th Street Independence to up to 8th Street and North Carolina Ave. And then the other specific issues were kind of like one-off issues in writing. I will note that we did have some discussion at the ANC 6B Transportation Committee, and there was, several other issues discussed as well. Although we didn't receive like written comments from that ANC or asking for anything specific coming out of that. There were, a number of concerns raised around parking issues, particularly in the northern residential section. And so we are taking a look kind of a little more holistically at that area, not just limited to this project, and, engaging with some of the stakeholders and residents who live up there as well. So I'm going to kind of do a block by block walking through of the corridor so you can get a sense of what we're doing. So starting at the north, so this is 8th Street running from East Capitol down to A Street. Generally through this northern residential portion, we don't have the width to add a bus lane, but we can do safety improvements and bus stop changes. So at East Capitol, that photo on the right with the number 1 is a treatment we're doing at many of our painted bike lanes to protect them through the intersection. And so the bike lane kind of jogs over to the curb, and then going through the intersection has better separation from traffic. And so that's a safety intervention that we're able to do with this project, for an intersecting bike lane. Moving south, you can see kind of like at an intersection that doesn't have a bike lane, we are doing paint and flex post curb extensions, and that's to reinforce good sight lines and visibility so that people don't park too close to the intersection. So that's a proven pedestrian safety measure. And many of the intersections, the parking has been allowed like traditionally right up to the crosswalk. We actually have a regulation in DC that we need to have a 25-foot setback from the crosswalk in most situations. And so doing these markings and protection will actually just be enforcing our existing regulations and making sure that parking happens where it's supposed to. And so that's kind of like non-discretionary. We have to do this to make sure the regulation is followed. So moving south, this is where we start to see some of the, It's just jumping around on me. Some of the bus stop changes. So here we've got two bus stops around the North Carolina and Independence Ave intersection. Both of the bus stops will have a bus stop bulb out, like the one pictured on the left. That's one of the ones just right up the street on 8th Street Northeast from a previous project we did. The northbound bus stop at Independence Ave will be relocated to the far side of North Carolina Avenue. Moving the bus stop to the far side, on average, reduces the amount of delay that buses experience at traffic signals. And so this is a fairly proven bus priority treatment is working on our bus stop locations. And so that is why that bus stop will be moving up there. And North Carolina Ave will also, which has the bike lane intersecting it, along North Carolina, intersecting 8th Street, will also get protection through the intersection with that same treatment we're doing up at East Capitol. So moving down towards Pennsylvania Avenue, number of safety and bus priority elements going in here. So the first one is the number one. So we're adding a pedestrian island for that crosswalk running from so on the left of that is like where the Trader Joe's is, and then going to the right is the block where the playground is. And so heavily used, lots of kids. It's too close to Pennsylvania to add a signal, but what we can do is do some traffic calming and provide a pedestrian refuge island, which really enhances safety. It gives pedestrians a place to wait for, and you only have to cross one side of the street at a time. It makes for a much safer crossing environment. Number two, you can see the bus lane extending through the intersection here. This is where the northbound short bus lane ends. And so it kind of tapers off and buses merge back into general traffic where that bus lane ends on the far side of that crosswalk. D Street, we are going to be prohibiting left turns from D onto 8th Street. And part of that is to reduce the number of vehicles entering into that very short block. And that kind of spills back and blocks the bus stop, blocks buses getting through, blocks traffic, causes safety and visibility issues. And one of the things we can do, because we're changing the traffic pattern here, is working to extend that northbound bus stop. Folks may remember that was historically where the bus stop was. When WMATA switched to the longer 60-foot buses, like shown in photo number 3 there, that is a photo of that location, and those longer buses would hang back and block the crosswalk. So we actually worked with WMATA to set up a temporary stop location on the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue. But with this project, what we're able to do is kind of realign the intersection and build a big curb extension. So we're able to gain almost 20 additional feet for that bus stop. And so those large 60-foot buses will actually now fit back in that bus stop, which is a good bus stop location. There's a shelter, good public space and shade, good connection to Eastern Market right there. So we're really excited to have come up with a solution to get that bus stop back in that good location. Let's see. Yep, and yeah, that just about covers this slide. Lots going on here, but yeah, excited for these changes. Oh yeah, sorry, one last thing on D Street. D Street's kind of like a wide street for a single lane, and so with that additional width, we're going to be installing what's called a contraflow bike lane, so it goes against general traffic. That photo number with the number 4 is from I Street Northeast, so just a little bit north up near H Street, where it's a good example of a contraflow lane on a one-way street. It acts as a traffic calming measure by visually narrowing the roadway, and so getting cars to slow down who are driving next to the playground and a little extra buffer from the playground is going to be really nice. And it provides bi-directional bike connectivity, because bikes can still go in both directions, where previously you would have had to ride against traffic here. So moving south into Barracks Row, so you'll see the beginning of, so you'll see the northbound curbside bus lane, which runs from E Street up through Pennsylvania. We saw the end of it on the north side of Pennsylvania. So that's going to be along the curbside here. And so we worked very closely with the fire station. They've had a lot of issues with getting in and out of their their facilities with their large trucks and double parking issues. And so this was something that they thought was a really good solution. It will provide additional space for vehicles to get out of the way and pull over into the bus lane, which you're allowed to do when an emergency vehicle comes. It will also provide, an option for them if cars don't get over, they can use the bus lane to get out as well. You can see on the other side of the street, the southbound bus lane begins here. And so, as I was noting before, this retains parking. It's in the offset position, we're calling it. And so there will be parking on that side of the street. We'll do a little on the curbside regulations later, but this is going to be a 10-minute parking zone. So trying to, be responsive to the types of businesses along this part of the corridor and recognizing, the heavy pickup and drop off and delivery activity going on here. Number 3 is a bus stop bulb out. So this is another one of those concrete bus stops that will, stick out into the street. Means that cars can't park in front of it, which is a big problem at this one. It reduces the merging that buses have to do. And one of the benefits is that, for this crosswalk, it does kind of shorten the crossing distance by providing concrete bump out and narrowing the roadway some here. One note, on D Street, we are restricting left turns onto 8th. Except for trucks. So we recognize there's a FedEx store right there. And so there are, heavy truck activity. They need to be able to access our freight corridor going north. And so we will be allowing trucks to make that maneuver, but general traffic will not. All right, moving south. So from E Street going south to G, the offset bus lane continues. This is the first block where you see the angled parking converted to the parallel parking on the east side of the street. The bus stops at G Street, both of them will be relocated from the near side of the intersection to the far side of the intersection, and both of them will get concrete bulb outs as well. So this is many elements we've seen in other parts of the corridor. And this is the general cross section you'll see throughout most of Barracks Row. Jumping down to near I Street. So the southbound offset bus lane kind of bends over to the curb as it approaches that intersection. Going in the northbound direction, we are providing a turn pocket, which will, we're still figuring out a couple of the last little details on this. I believe that what we're landing on is that turn pocket will provide access into the underpass lot as well as onto I Street. And so, providing good access into that lot was an issue that came up throughout the project. So we want to make it clear that folks can access it from all directions here. I Street itself is going to have the number of travel lanes reduced from 3 to 2. That was an area that we identified a lot of speeding and like high speed turns coming off of I Street onto 8th. And so this will provide better geometry for those turning vehicles to take that at a safer, slower speed. On the west side of 8th Street on I Street, there should be a number here. But we are actually, the south side of the street is rush hour restricted parking. We're going to be converting that into all full-time parking. Sorry, didn't mean to jump. And that will actually reduce the travel lanes during rush hour from 2 down to 1, which is plenty of capacity for that street. And then want to note for the underpass lot, we already did this. We extended the time limit for parking in that lot from 2 to 8 hours, and that was implemented earlier this year. And that was in response to comments primarily from businesses along the corridor who made the case for, having parking that their employees and workers could use, as well as patrons along the corridor. And so this is one of the few, if not the only parking lot that DDOT owns and operates. So we were able to make that change. So moving south, I'm gonna go on mute for 1 second. All right. Who amongst us hasn't had their kids join the public meeting presentation? So moving south, Virginia Ave, you can see the end of the southbound bus lane in the offset position. That ends at L Street. That intersection is like a really wide open intersection. And so we're going to be doing some concrete curb extensions to narrow the crossing distance there. In the northbound direction, we're going to bulb out, actually for both directions, bulbing out the bus stops as we've seen throughout the corridor. And then that number 4 there, sorry, this keeps jumping on me, is the final location where we're changing the back in angled parking to parallel parking. All right, so wanted to go over the parking situation along the corridor. So this project does have a minor impact on the number of parking spots along 8th Street Southeast. So
Andrew, you're breaking up. We couldn't really understand you for this slide. Still, yeah, still can't. No.
Maybe Andrew, if you can, while you try, if you want to try connecting on your phone just to the audio portion, I can at least take a stab at taking on this slide. So just wanted to kind of looking at the parking in kind of the overall context, because it's in this environment, we're not really having a situation where there's a single spot for a single business. So we did need to remove some parking in some spots in order to have the bus lane and some of those safety improvements. However, we were able to make some of the changes in both on making the underpass lot a little bit more accessible and easy to reach. Also looking at some of the rush hour parking that would increase because we currently have some rush hour restrictions that are in place on some of those blocks. And by getting a little bit more of the side streets during rush hour, that can help to mitigate some of the impacts. Andrew, if you want to try next slide. Oop, I think you skipped one. But yeah, here we go. So this is kind of a comparison of the existing curb regulations and the proposed curb regulations. I know it's a lot of detail here, so we definitely encourage everyone to take the time to take a look at the presentation on the website, which will be posted after this meeting. We also have a lot of this detail in the NOI that's already posted. One of the main things that we're looking at is maximizing the effectiveness of the curb space that will be left. Yes, we are going to be using a lot of the curb space for bus lanes and the safety improvements, but by really maximizing the use of the remaining space and keying it to the exact needs of the block, we can hopefully make up for a lot of that. One of the features is a 10-minute parking zone, which is about 10 spaces. This is something that is really designed to help make sure that parking is available. And so by keeping it to 10 minutes, people come for those quick pickup. You're just grabbing something to go. And then we can be assured that they'll be able to get out of the way so that someone else, whether it's a customer, delivery, whatever, um, can give another try. And speaking of giving another try, Andrew, do you want to? You're on mute. I'm afraid you're still breaking up there. Well, I'll keep if it's okay, I'll keep going just to kind of keep things moving along. If you want to, you can try, I guess, on the phone. Um, so the uh, yeah, so we do have the 10-minute zones, which are really designed to maximize parking turnover and availability for a lot of those quick trips. People going in, grab something quickly. Also can be used for delivery and like pickup for food delivery, that sort of thing. On the commercial loading side, there are already some commercial spaces, but one thing that we're doing is increasing that because we recognize that that's a really critical use. And to answer one of the questions that I saw on the panel about delivery access to Yes Market, that's something where, so right now there is a loading zone that's directly in front of Yes Market, but we know that that is oftentimes blocked, and also there have been historically issues of cars kind of backing up out of there uh, and impeding access to the fire station. So we are creating a new loading zone up on Pennsylvania that will be open every time, basically where the bus lane is now on Pennsylvania. But because the bus lane on Penn is only operational in the PM peak, it means that during the rest of the day, we're going to be able to have that space dedicated to uh, the loading space for commercial loading. And one thing we did notice is that a lot of loading for Yes Market already happens because those spaces are going to, the existing spaces are often filled up, that a lot of the loading already happens around the corner, and that deliveries will be brought in, on a dolly around the corner, and that probably will also be a factor there. We're also increasing the number of ADA spaces. We're converting those rush restricted spaces on I Street Southeast to full-time parking. That's something that also has some safety benefits because people can be really flying when they're coming off of 695 at that exit there. So this helps to kind of calm things down a little bit. We're now we're also looking at, yes, the underpass lot, which is already implemented. Looks like I have my own assistant interrupting me as well. And then also, because we're doing some bus stop consolidation, we can take that space that was used for a lot of the abandoned bus stops, and we can put that back into parking. So that's going to add another 11 spaces. And overall, we know that the signage can get very confusing, so we're really making a concerted effort to try to clean up, update, and simplify that signage as much as we can. Next slide, please. Yes, so tentative construction schedule. We are looking, fingers crossed, at April 6th, and so that does depend on the weather, which, as we've seen, has been a little nuts lately. Also, some other factors that come into play of just making sure that everything is lined up and ready to go. And so for the April to July phase, the focus is going to be on building the bus platforms. So these are the little curb extensions at bus stops that help to make things more accessible for people. It means that the bus can always be fully aligned with the curb. People can get on and off, particularly if you're using a mobility device. Makes it a whole lot easier. And it also means that the bus is able to get moving quicker and not be stuck boarding for an extended period of time. But so in the construction of those, it's about 2 weeks for each one, and it's going to be rolling. Any kind of construction impacts are just going to be focused on the area of the bus platform. So there's going to be some temporary bus stop closures when the work is happening. We're starting around 8th and G outside the Marine Barracks. We have a real focus on trying to get, we're aware of the parade schedule, and we really want to make sure that we're getting in and getting out to be out of the way so that we're not interfering with any of that. We're going to be doing the northbound platforms first, and then I'm going to come around and do the southbound. Then to wrap it all up in August and September, going to do a full repaving of the street, make it nice and smooth, and then get all the markings down and yeah, get all the signs in. Next slide, please. So just a few little reminders for our construction team. This is going to be an active site, and even though we are going to be doing this in a way to try to minimize the impacts to just where the work is happening, we do appreciate your patience and cooperation during the construction period to make sure that all of our contractors are safe and can get their work done as quickly as possible. So please keep an eye out for those emergency no parking signs. I know it can be easy to sometimes gloss over them when you're looking for a place to park, since sometimes people leave them up too long, but this is really important to make sure that all of our construction equipment can safely get to where it needs to go. Construction is going to be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. weekdays. It's a possibility we might have some weekend daytime work, but that's kind of a TBD, and we will make sure to keep everybody updated if that needs to happen. The travel lanes in both directions generally remain open. Might need to have some flagging operations for active work going on, but it's not something that would be extended over many days. No detours are expected, just some minor delays, and we appreciate your patience on that. So yeah, remember that the work zone may appear idle, even if it's getting some critical inspections or traffic signal work. So just if it seems like nothing's happening, we can assure you that to be patient with us, that we are getting the work done from top to bottom. Next slide, please. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for sticking with us with familial and technical issues that happens at the best of these meetings. And looking at the slides, I guess maybe Emma or Keith, I know that if your voices can come through, were there any other questions or comments that came in that we need to address?
You did great, but maybe I'll answer these questions verbally that I responded to in the chat. So
Oh, great.
There's a question
I'll hand it to you.
Okay. There's a question about parking spots along the Marine Barracks between G and I Street changing to parallel. All of the roadway striping changes that Andrew showed are going to be occurring at the very end. So once the repaving occurs on the section between M Street and Pennsylvania Avenue, after the repaving is when the final striping will go in. Tentatively, that's looking at August, September for that to occur. The other question is the construction affecting the July 4th parade. No construction occurs on holidays, so there shouldn't be any construction during that time. Yeah. And then will construction at 8th and G Street block off any parking during the construction? So there will be a staging area during the construction. I believe Andrew's been coordinating with the Marine Barracks, and so that the construction that's occurring at 8th and G Street is going to be the first bus platform that we construct to make sure that we're minimizing conflicts with Marine Barracks operations. So that should be occurring, the first week of April. So there will be, generally 2-ish parking spots that will have the staging area for the bus platform, in addition to the length of the bus platform.
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, unfortunately, no dice.
It does look like an attendee has their hand raised, but I'm not sure we're able to bring them up. But if that attendee wants to write a question in the chat, we'd be happy to answer that way. So the question is the operation of the streeteries. The streeteries, actually, I'm probably not the right person to answer this question. They will be closed during the construction, but maybe Andrew can respond in the chat with how it'll function between now and then. While Andrew's answering that, I see another question came in about requested scheduling for the construction. Unfortunately, this is one of many projects that's being constructed this year, so we do have a tight schedule we have to stick to. I see the request is, to have a delay on some of the repaving. All of the repaving is going to be occurring at the same time. That being said, maybe we're going to have a really late winter. Maybe we're going to have a lot of rain this spring and things will get pushed. But unfortunately, we're not really able to accommodate those types of requests. I will say, construction is going to be occurring on weekdays, 7 to 7. And, we'll coordinate as best we can with the Marine Barracks during your parades to make sure that we're, not, our construction is not conflicting with your operations. As far as the streeteries go, so there are 3 streeteries that have applied for permits. They're currently working their way through that process. If those 3 streeteries get approved through the public space permitting process, they'll be built after this project is done. Only 1 streetery currently is still standing and will be taken down before construction starts. And another question was asked about equipment staging on 8th Street during the July 4th parade. We will make sure that there's no equipment staging on 8th Street during that time. I think again, there's a participant that has their hand raised if they want to ask the question in the chat instead.
My chat at least says disabled. I don't know if that's true for everyone.
Oh, well, it sounds like we can hear you. So I guess if you want to ask your question. And I guess I should specify it's not the chat, it's the Q&A, which you access through the apps next to the chat button. But Aaron, I believe you were able to speak, so if you want to just ask your question.
Appreciate that.
Well.
I'm just curious if you could speak briefly to the holistic review you mentioned of the parking in the northern residential area of the project, and when and how community members might either be able to learn about that or give any feedback.
Sorry, we still can't. Unfortunately, that's not something I'm involved in. I think Andrew has the answer for that. But unfortunately, his microphone's not working.
Yeah, sorry. I can try to field this one. You were asking about the parking changes on towards the northern end.
Sorry, is my audio working? I tried switching.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, back. So we got a request to take a look at some of the parking zones around that part of the, like, near North Carolina. There may be some changes to curbside regulation that we can pursue. And so I may be like calling it a holistic review of parking is not quite accurate. But there are possibly some opportunities to like look at, there's, a few 1 and 30-minute parking zones on residential blocks. This was just a request that came in from some residents, a resident and from an ANC commissioner. And so we are going to take a look at that. So not making any promises on changes, but those are kind of like outside the scope of this project. There, wouldn't be anything on 8th Street. But, recognizing that, we're hearing concerns around parking, that's something that we can take a look at. So what I would say is if you, have suggestions for, changes to the streets in your neighborhood, as always, you can send them to DDOT. We, can't promise we can do everything everybody wants, but we can certainly take a look. Hope that answered the question. Okay, great. I am seeing one more question. Are there any additional measures which can be taken to enhance visibility, particularly at night, of pedestrian crossing at 8th and D north of Pennsylvania. Northbound drivers crossing the intersection seem to speed up and continue at speed through the crosswalk. The pedestrian island is going to be the most helpful thing for that crossing, as will eliminating left turns from from D onto 8th. As far as visibility, this project did not include like lighting changes, if that's what you're asking about. But we can, if we don't believe it's adequately lit at night, that is something that we can look at the street lights and take a look at that. As far as like sight lines and visibility, that I'm not sure if that's exactly the issue. It's a challenging location because the street grid is with Penn coming in at an angle and the intersections being so close together, and so I don't have a specific solution on visibility. I think that the ped island and the turn restrictions are going to help a lot. So I'm hoping that solves some of the problems. Sorry if that was not a fully satisfactory answer. All right. Let me just confirm we didn't get any more questions coming in. All right. Looks good. So I will pause for 30 seconds, see if any more questions arise. And if not, we will wrap up. So I'll pause for one moment. All right, great. Well, thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. I really appreciate the engagement and all the questions. Appreciate everyone who's been engaged throughout this project over the last few years. We're very excited that we're going to be constructing it and for what the outcomes will be. If any issues arise, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. That project website has my contact information, as well as like a form and a way to contact the bus priority program directly as well. So don't hesitate to reach out if any issues arise or if you have any questions or comments. So thank you. And with that, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Have a good evening.